Yeah, very good. So then we can start with the good motivations. Today, it's the Buddha's birthday, and that's the best offering to make when we study our mind. Yeah, that's the best offering for the sake of all the beings. That's beautiful. Okay, so we'll try to recap a little bit what we saw last time. And okay, and try to debate again. Wow. Okay, just try to find the slides. Yes. Okay, so you should be able to see the image now. The objects and direct perception. Wow, beware. Okay, so this is for sharpening our mind as usually, yeah, to try to have the common sense and good heart all together. That's very good. And of course, yeah, just some sources, yeah, recognizing reality. That's a beautiful book. Yeah, if you have time one day to read that and maybe to translate that in German as well, yeah, Zigrula. Maybe it exists in German, I don't know. That's a fantastic book. That's the Bible for epistemology. Yeah, so very nice. Then you have also Knowledge and Liberation from Ankla. Very clear, very nice as well, very useful. And the second volume, Knowing, Naming, and Negation. They are a bit more difficult, but the first one is very useful anyway when we start. And you can see also in Mind in Tibetan Buddhism, yeah, very good commentary from Lati Rinpoche. And also that splendid book as well, Science and Philosophy in the Indian Buddhist Classics, Volume 2, The Mind. Yeah, many good explanations as well. Yeah. So then you can double check what I'm telling to you in different kinds of sources. Yeah. Okay, so just a flashback now, that's just to see what we saw last time. Okay, we saw that we can divide awareness or cognition. I will keep cognition because it's easier. We can divide cognition in main mind and mental factors. Yeah, we saw that last time. And of course, there are different divisions of the mind where you can have, like, for instance, mistaken consciousness and non-mistaken consciousness, conceptual consciousness and non-conceptual consciousness. What else? Mental consciousness and sense consciousness and so on. Yeah, so different types of divisions. So you can have a twofold division, you can have a threefold division and sevenfold division of the mind. So we will see that slowly, step by step. Yeah. So last time we saw, yeah, cognition is the broadest category and can be divided, yeah, as we saw. Okay, and the main minds also, we can call them also mental. Yeah, a mental is a main mind or main consciousness. Can be divided in mental consciousness and sense consciousness. Yeah. So it follows you can posit the difference between mental and mental consciousness. Are they equivalent, contradictory, 3P, 4P?
3P.
3P, yeah, everybody agrees. 3P, so it follows you can posit the perversion, Shavila.
Whatever is a mental consciousness must necessarily be mental, but whatever is mental is not necessarily a mental consciousness.
Yes, fantastic. For instance, what
For
can be?
instance, consciousness,
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And you can posit something which is neither mental and mental consciousness.
mental factor.
Yes, exactly. Yes, very easy. Yeah. So yeah, we should not be so afraid for debate. Okay. So we will dive in a little bit into the objects in order to understand what means a mistaken consciousness. Yeah. Okay. So that we saw that during the previous classes. Yeah, when we studied the topics, the collected topics. Yeah, object is equivalent with existent phenomenon object of comprehension, object of comprehension of an omniscient mind, and so on and so on. Yeah. So object doesn't only mean, like, for instance, in French, when we say object, we tend to say to say a cup, a pen, table, and so on. But they are just instances of object. Object means existent. Yeah. So do you have the definition of object? Do you remember? It was maybe one cosmic era in the past. Okay, so I will give it to you. That which is known by an awareness, yeah. And I remember in the summary that we had, there was a slight mistake, a slight typo. It was written that which is realized by an awareness, yeah, but it's not the case, yeah. It's only that which is known by an awareness, yeah. So of course, to know something, to realize something can be equivalent, yeah. But there can be some debates, especially in Jepungomong, for instance, yeah. Okay, fantastic. So that which is known by an awareness is the definition of object. And we will see the main divisions, not too complicate for now, because usually in the texts they speak about 4 or even sometimes 5 types of objects, but we will speak about 2: the appearing object and the engaged object of, or the object of engagement. Yeah, engaged object is easier to say, so I will keep that. So the appearing object and the engaged object. Okay, very good. So the appearing object can find and we can find a definition in recognizing reality. Yeah, the Geshe Dreyfus gives the definition given by Gyalwa Genren Rupa, the first Dalai Lama. He says, "Chöde nansang goneri pajawa," that phenomenon which is cognized through its mere appearing. Yeah, we could say that phenomenon which is known through its mere appearance. Yeah, so that's that phenomenon which directly manifests to our mind, we could say so. Yeah, so of course we will see some illustrations. And the engaged object, we can find 2 definitions in recognizing reality. But it's not really the engaged object, it's the engaged object of valid cognition. Yeah, so we will study also what means a valid cognition. Okay, so tsemeng sucheba jitawa shindu nepeche, that's the definition, one definition given by Kiruje. We find that in recognizing reality and also in freedom through correct knowing. Yeah, I forgot to mention this book, which is very good as well. Okay, so that object which exists in the way in which it is explicitly determined by a valid cognition. Wow, mouthful definition. So it has to abide exactly the way it is realized by a valid cognition. Yeah? It's not only the mere, it's not merely the appearance to the mind, but it's what the mind knows. Yeah, so that's very different. And we have another definition which is shorter. Yeah. Yeah? The object determined by the elimination of superimpositions by valid cognition. Yeah, so that's another definition given by Kerubje as well, yeah, which is quoted in Recognizing Reality. So yeah, to eliminate superimpositions means to know, to realize that object, yeah, to be uncontrovertible. Yeah, so that's the way we could assert one part of the definition of a valid cognition. Okay, slowly, we'll try to see what it means. For instance, I introduce you Bob. Bob and his teddy bear. So he's watching at a boat. Yeah. So here we can speak about a direct perception. Yeah. Okay. So the boat is the appearing object to the eye consciousness. Yeah. For Bob, or we could say for us as well. Yeah. The image of the boat. that drawing, we could say, is the appearing object because that what manifests directly to our mind, yeah? But also because the mind is engaging into that object, we can say that the boat for the direct perception is also the engaged object. Yeah, so we can say that the boat is, which is the engaged object of the direct perception, and the both, which is the appearing object of the direct perception, are equivalent. It's just a way to express two ways for the mind to apprehend the thing. So when we can see that, you know, when it is from the side of the object appears to the mind. So we can say the appearing object. And when we see that the way the subject is engaging its object, then we can speak about the engaged object. Yeah. Okay, so the difference for the direct perception is not so evident, but we can see for the thought consciousness, that's very, very different. So here, for instance, Bob is thinking about the boat. So the appearing object to the thought consciousness is the image, the conceptual image of the boat. Yeah, that's very different. Yeah. And of course, what is the engaged object of the thought consciousness apprehending the boat?
Boat.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. The boat itself. Very good. Yes, the engaged object is the boat itself. Very good. Welcome for the people who came meantime. Very good. So here, for the thought consciousness, the difference is very, very noticeable. Yeah? Yeah, the appearing object is necessarily not the engaged object. Yeah, for the direct perception, we can say that they can be equivalent. Yeah, but here they are contradictory. Yeah, okay. So the thought consciousness is working like in a mirror. Yeah, when you watch something through a mirror, you see directly the reflection of the boat, for instance. And there is something distorted when you see your face in a mirror. The reflection of the face, of course, shows the aspect of being the face, but it's not the face. Yeah. And also we can say that the right is on the left and the left is on the right. So we can see that there is some kind of distortion in a mirror. Yeah. Okay. So the thought consciousness is distorted in that way. Yeah. So the image of the boat seems to be the boat, but it's not the boat. So that's why there is something mistaken in the thought consciousness. It's in the very nature of a thought consciousness to be mistaken. Yeah. Okay, is it okay for now, for everyone? Yeah, okay, very good. So the definition of a mistaken consciousness, yeah, that's cognition which is mistaken with regard to its appearing object. Yeah, so we can say that any thought consciousness is mistaken because when we think about our shoes, then the image, the conceptual image of the shoes looks like the shoes, yeah, but it's not the shoes. So that's why it's mistaken. Yeah. Okay, of course, we don't believe in that. We don't say, oh, I have my shoes in my head. That would hurt. Nobody thinks, oh, the what I'm thinking about, the image, the conceptual image in my mind is the object itself. Nobody would say so, yeah. But still, the image looks like the object itself, yeah. Okay, so a wrong consciousness is easy, yeah? That's a cognition which is mistaken with regard to its engaged object, yeah? So we want to know the shoes, for instance, and maybe, for instance, you see some shoes outside of the temple, and you would think, oh, those are my shoes, and they are the shoes of your neighbor, for instance. Yeah, especially if they are new and colorful and nice, you could think, oh, they are my shoes. So in that case, we are mistaken with regard to the engaged object, not the, not only the appearing object, yeah? Okay, so like for instance, you have Bob. Bob thinks that in front of him there is a banana, but it's not a banana, it's Kevin. Yeah. So Kevin looks like a banana. Yeah, we can we can accept that. So his thought consciousness is not only mistaken, it is wrong. It is deceptive because he thinks that in front of him there is a banana, but there is no banana. It's only Kevin. So his mind is mistaken with regard to its engaged object. Yeah, it's totally mistaken. Okay. Very good. So now, because Bob could not think about Kevin, just see Kevin, yeah. So in that case, if his eye consciousness uh, tends to see a banana where there is only Kevin, then his mind is not only mistaken, it's only wrong, it's also wrong. Yeah, because the engaged object and the appearing object for a non-conceptual mind tend to be equivalent. Yeah, so if without thinking about Kevin, Bob sees a banana where there is no banana, where there is just Kevin, so his mind is mistaken with regard to its appearing object. And because appearing object and engaged object are in a loose sense equivalent for direct perception, so his mind is mistaken, so it is necessarily wrong. We can say a non-conceptual mind which is mistaken is necessarily wrong, a wrong consciousness. Yeah, we could say so. So of course we will play with that in some next debates, but I hope it's clear enough for now. I'm checking the eyebrows, checking the cams. Okay. Okay, so we will debate slowly about that. So now, now just to recap a little bit the way we debate, yeah? Okay, and what we saw last time as well, yeah? Okay, so the challenger will always start with often start with a kind of assertion like this. Well, I guess that you don't know the definition of awareness. And here the challenger is Bumpo. Yeah, the bumpers are very nice in debate. Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, not only in other schools as well. Yeah? Okay, so that's the challenger who says, "Well, I guess that you don't know the definition of awareness." So what is the first answer from the defender?
The reason is not established.
Yes, very good. The reason is not established. Yeah, that's the formal debate like this. Okay, so it follows that you know the definition of awareness.
Accept.
Yes, accept. Yeah. Okay, posit.
That which is clear and knowing.
Yes. Exactly, because you remember well the subject clear and knowing, that which is clear and knowing. Yeah, there are very nice explanations in science and philosophy in the Indian Buddhist classics about what means clear. Yeah, three types of meaning. Yeah. Okay, last time we saw just one. Yeah, okay. So it follows that the subject clear and knowing is the definition of awareness.
Accept.
Yes, accept. Okay, so it follows that the subject clear is not the definition of awareness.
Accept.
Yeah, yeah, accept. The subject clear is not the definition of awareness because? Aha.
Because, for example, water can also be clear.
Yes, very good. Zengrunla, very good. Yeah. What did I put? Because, for instance, a mirror is clear. Yeah, a mirror is clear because it allows any object to reflect in that mirror. Yeah, so the mind allows any object to have a reflection in that mind. Yeah, so we can say that the mind illuminates its objects. Yeah, we can say that any object can appear to the mind. Yeah, we can say so. So any object can appear in a mirror, we can say. So it's not enough to say it is clear. Yeah. Otherwise, our mind would be like a mirror or like clear water, for instance, as well. Yeah. We could say also because, for instance, a flashlight is clear. Yeah. The light, the sunlight is clear as well. Yeah. So as Venerable Gendandula said one day during a Mahamudra retreat in France, that when we say clear, it means as well luminous. Yeah, sometimes we can have clear dreams, like beautiful dreams and with many lights and so on. So that's an aspect of our mind also. It's not only clear like a crystal, but it's also clear like luminous, like a light. Yeah. So of course, a flashlight is not mind, is not a cognition, yeah? So clear is not enough as well, yeah? And we can say also because, for instance, space is clear, yeah? Space between the screen and me, yeah? The space is clear, yeah? There is no obstruction. That's what we said last time. Mind is not material, yeah? So that's one meaning of clear as well, yeah? Like space, it's not material, yeah? We can say also because mind, you know, the obstructions or the defilements are not in the inherent nature of the mind. Yeah, they cannot exist within the very nature of the mind. They can influence the mind, but they don't belong to the very nature of the mind. We can say also, that's why we say clear, like Acharya Dharmakirti says, yes, Samgi Ranshi Veser Jimanani Loburwa. Yeah, or the nature of the mind is clear and the defilements are adventitious. Yeah, so we can say so. Yeah, like this clear. And sometimes clear can mean also emptiness. Yeah, like we can say sometimes, like for instance, His Holiness the Dalai Lama's commentaries or on some Dzogchen practice. Yeah, like for instance, His Holiness would explain Sem Machite Semgi Ranshi Vesewa in the Perfection of Wisdom in 8,000 verses, yeah? And according to the three wheels of the Dharma, yeah? That's beautiful. Okay, so yeah, just put it aside for now. It follows that if it is not clear and knowing, it can't be awareness.
Except.
Yeah. Yes, because if we discard, yeah, for instance, if we say it follows that if it is not hot and burning, it cannot be fire.
Except.
Yes, very good, because we discard the definition, we have to discard the definition. Okay, so it follows that if it is not clear and knowing, it can't be an awareness. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, accept. Very good. It follows that you know the difference between the two, awareness and clear knowing. Among contradictory, equivalent, 3P, and 4P.
Except.
Yes. Then we save time.
Yeah.
We
I
have
think
yes.
equivalent.
Equivalent for Zingrunla.
Equivalent.
Equivalent, ça veut dire
Equivalent.
equivalent, c'est un moment là. So now we have Palavila and Isala. Now you need to dare to give an answer. Yeah, like for instance, if we say on one side hot and burning and the other side fire, would it be contradictory, equivalent, 3P or 4P? Like for instance, contradictory would be like my phone and my cup. They are contradictory, yeah? Because they are different and there is no common base. Nothing in the multiverse of Doctor Strange can be a phone and a cup, yeah? So they are different with no common base, so they are contradictory. Okay, so now if we say, for instance, water and H2O, they are equivalent. Yeah, okay, now if we say water and hot water, 3P, Yeah,
3P.
water and hot water. Yeah, hot water is necessarily water, but water is not necessarily hot water, and you have something which is none of them, yeah? Like sound. Okay, and 4P, you remember? Some instance of 4P? Like we could say, okay, for instance, okay, like monk and lama. Yeah, okay. Or the color of cup and red. Yeah, you have A and B, A not B, B not A, and something which is none of them, yeah? Okay, so we know perfectly now the 4 types of comparison: contradiction, equivalence, 3P and 4P. So now, awareness and clear knowing, we have many equivalent. Yeah, I guess you're right. Yes, awareness is the definiendum and clear and knowing is the definition, yeah? So one definiendum and its definition are necessarily equivalent, no? Yeah, Panavila has some doubts, yeah, from last Monday.
Oh, I was wondering if it is not clear. If it is not clear and knowing, can it still be awareness?
Ah, yeah, if it is just not clear, just knowing.
Yeah, it could be some, yeah.
Yeah, for instance, what can be knowing and not an awareness?
If it is not clear, I would say, like, let's say I am in deep sleep,
Yes.
or I'm dreaming or something, and it's like a weird, like nothing is clear, but I'm aware. I know that I'm in this dream, but nothing is clear.
Yes, wow, you practice lucid dreams, Palavila. That's beautiful.
I don't practice, it happens.
That's nice. Okay, so yes, one point in the science and philosophy in the Indian Buddhist classics, they say that also in deep sleep, the mind is clear in the sense that it allows darkness to be, you know, some kind of darkness, yeah, dark state of mind to be, you know, it's aware of that. It's aware of that in one sense, yeah. So that's what we call unaware, yeah, when we are in deep sleep, because we are just aware of some vacuum in the mind, in one sense. So yes, if it is not clear in the sense that it is not like valid or it is not, you know, like unmistaken or something like this, can it be still mind? Yeah, we can say that, for instance, yeah. We will see that in the further slides. We will have some debate about that, yeah. But yes,
So-
we could say, yes, please.
That's why I wasn't comfortable with equivalent, because I was thinking there are other ways, other combinations that could happen. So then would in the debate format, would it go into a 3P?
Yeah, you could debate so. You could say, okay, it follows that it can be only knowing and be an awareness, yeah. So I would say it follows that, like for instance, Palavila, who knows the definition of mind, is an awareness because Palavila is knowing.
If
you
I
are
know
not.
the definition of mind, I am aware.
Yes, you can be aware, yeah. You can be aware because your mind is aware, yeah. So because the mind and the person are one substance, yeah. When the mind knows, the person knows, yeah. But still, the person is not clear because the person is not oh yeah, we can say that the person is not material, yeah. Yeah, why not? We can have some debates like this. Yeah. So that's why, then in that case, if we say just knowing is the definition of awareness, it would not, both would not be equivalent because the person could be knowing, but not an awareness, yeah? Yes,
Well,
but can we say that, for instance, lethargy or deep sleep, yeah, are clear in the sense that they are not material and they have no obstruction, then we can say so. They are clear and knowing. Clear and knowing doesn't always mean that it has to be valid or lucid, you know, or bright. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Okay. If that's the case, then I mean, I can be clear that I'm not clear. Like it's very
Yes.
clear that I'm completely confused. And I know that I'm confused. So that's an awareness, self-awareness that I know
Yes,
of the lack of clarity in the mind.
exactly. And that's why the Prasangika would say any wrong cognition is a valid cognition with regard to its appearing object. Okay.
So then it's equivalent. That is established.
Yes,
No matter what,
yes,
awareness is always clear in knowing.
exactly. Yeah. Even if it knows wrongly, yeah. For instance, we have, wrong cognitions. Yeah, they are cognitions, so they have to be clear and knowing. Still, they are wrong.
Got it.
Yeah. Very good. Okay. So yes, accept. What was the question? It follows that you know the difference between the two. Yes, okay. So we accept and we said equivalent. Yeah. Okay, equivalent. Wow. The subject, the two, awareness and clear knowing are equivalent because?
Because they are definition and definiendo, and it's definiendo.
Yes, we can say so. I wanted to write that in the slides, but I put it aside. So, because they are different and share the ideas of perversion, yeah? It follows it is the definition of equivalent. Yes, you agree. Yeah, very good. So we could have said, yeah, like Zingrula said, yes, because they are a definition and its definiendum, yeah, or a definiendum and its definition, yeah. Yeah. Okay, it follows that if they are a definiendum and its definition, they are necessarily equivalent.
Except.
Yes. Okay. Very good. Accept. Yeah. It follows that if they are equivalent, they are necessarily a definiendum and its definition. Aha. Some
No, why?
some people say yes, some people say no. Okay. Okay. Why? Yes, I would say
Why?
why. Yes, c'est un moment-là. You said that?
Why?
Yeah, why as well? Okay. Very good. So then the challenger will give the opposite assertion. Yeah? It follows that if they are equivalent, they are not necessarily a definiendum and its definition. And we have to accept it, yeah.
Accept.
Very good. Okay. Accept. For instance, what can be equivalent without being a definition and its definiendum?
Water
True.
and H2O. Sorry.
Yeah, water and H2O and c'est un moment-là?
And water.
Yes, okay. Yes, H2O and water. Okay, very good. Yeah, we can say so, yeah. H2O is not the definition of water. What is the definition of water?
Wet and
Languages. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, what is that?
I was saying wet and moistening.
Yes, wet and moistening. Very good. Okay, so it's not H2O, yeah? It's okay. Very good. We could say also the subject too, mind and mental. Yeah, both are definiendums. Yeah. Okay, we can say also the subject the three, consciousness, mind, and mental. We saw that last time, yeah. They are equivalent, yeah. Namshe, Sem, dans Yi, they are all three all together, they are equivalent, yeah. There is a textbook published in Jepungomong, yeah. They say that explicitly, yeah. Okay, very good. And they are not definitions, yeah, only definiendums, yeah. Still, they are equivalent, yeah. We can say also existent and object, phenomenon, they are equivalent, yeah, but they are only definiendums, yeah. They are not a definition and its definiendum, yeah. Yeah, Is that okay for everyone? Okay, fantastic. Yes. Just to breathe a little bit, watching the small white cat. It follows that the cat can be white. No, I'm joking. Okay. Okay, so here we will see what says Acharya Dignaga. Wow, the father of Buddhist logic and epistemology. He says, Ming dans riso jorwaye toba dondengosumo. The direct perception is free from conceptualization, which consists of attaching the name, category, and so on to the object. Yeah. So that's very important, especially the very first part. Yeah, pratyaksham kalpana podham. Yeah, that's very important. Yeah, the direct perception is free from conceptualization. So we will see what means direct perception. Yeah, we will debate with that. Yeah. Okay, I will send you the slides. Yeah, as usually. Okay, it follows that the subject, an I consciousness apprehending a mirage, is a direct perception. So we can have some doubts. If we follow strictly what says Acharya Dignaga, if we follow strictly, for instance, also what we can find in Acharya Dharmakirti in some texts, and also what says Veneragandandula, yeah, we could say yes, accept, yeah. But in many other textbooks, yeah, for instance, I'm following mainly Yunzin Purbuchok because I studied the Lorik, yeah, those debates with Otok Rinpoche according to Drebung Gomang and Vener Gengen according to Sera, yeah. Yunzin Purbuchok. So I'm not very familiar with the terminology used by Venerable Dandul, but still, if we know the definitions, we can manage. Yeah, so that's okay. Okay, very good. So it follows that the subject and my consciousness apprehending a mirage is a direct perception. So in Tibet House, we would say accept, and in in the FPMT, we would say why. Because in Tibet House, direct perception means non-conceptual consciousness. Yeah, a cognition which is free from conceptualization. Yeah, okay. But if we follow Yonzin Purbuchok, then we have to say why. Wow. Okay. Yes, Paravira?
Do you mind repeating the actual statement from Acharya Dignaga that
Oh,
says,
yes. He says, Topa donda ngosumo. Pratyaksham kalpana podam. Here. Yeah, the direct perception is free from conceptualization. Yeah.
and the second part?
Ah, yeah. Yeah, it was just here. Which consists of attaching the name, category, etc. to the object. Yeah.
Object. Okay. So in this example of a mirage,
Mm.
you cannot be free from conceptualization because if you brought apprehending
Yeah.
and mirage, you have associated so many name and categories to the direct perception.
Yes. But still here the subject is an I consciousness. Yeah. Can an I consciousness conceptualize?
No.
No, no, for the Buddhist people, yeah, for the Vaisheshikas, for instance, in the non-Buddhist schools, some would accept conceptual sense cognitions, yeah, but in the Buddhist schools, nobody accepts that, yeah. But the sense consciousnesses cannot be conceptual, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah? The eye consciousness cannot think, yeah. The
Okay.
ear consciousness and so on cannot think, yeah. So in that case, it should be clear that it is free from conceptualization, yeah. Yeah. Still, can we call it a direct perception if we follow strictly the Acharya Dignaga? Yes. Otherwise, if we follow we could say the new epistemology, yeah, starting with Chapa Chökyi Sangye, yeah, in Tibet, yeah, and the Gelugpa school would follow, yeah, Chapa Chökyi Sangye, and they would have a new type of epistemology, and they would say that the definition of direct perception is a cognition which is free from conceptualization and non-mistaken. Yeah, so they would add that. Okay, it follows that the subject and I consciousness apprehending a mirage is a direct perception because it is free from conceptualization. Yeah, that's the challenger's assertion. So what would we say? The reason is not established, no pervasion, accept. Yeah, if we say accept, so then we accept across the board. Yeah. If we say the reason is not established, it would mean that an I consciousness is not free from
No
conceptualization.
pervasion.
Yes, exactly. No perversion means the reason is established, but it doesn't prove the predicate. Yeah, it doesn't prove that it is a direct perception. Yeah. Okay. So yes, I would say no perversion as well. Okay. It follows that the subject and I consciousness apprehending a mirage is not a direct perception.
Except.
Yes, except in the FPMT, but not in Tibet House. Okay, accept. Yes, the subject and I consciousness apprehending a mirage is not a direct perception because
Because it is mistaken.
yes, exactly. It's a Dhammamola because it is a mistaken cognition. Yes, very good. The subject and I consciousness apprehending a mirage is a mistaken cognition because now you know the definition of a mistaken cognition.
Mm,
Yeah, if we may remember with regard to the appearing object or engaged object, which one is that?
Yeah, that which is mistaken with regard to its appearing object.
Exactly. Yeah, very good, Chavila, because it's a cognition which is mistaken with regard to its appearing object. Yeah. Yeah, because the mirage, yeah, the mirage appears to be water, to be a
mm,
pond of water, but it's not water. Yeah.
mm.
So there is a mistake with regard to its appearing object. Yeah. And we would say, because it's a non-conceptual mind, if it's mistaken, it has to be wrong. Yeah, because the appearing object and the engaged object, in a loose sense, they are equivalent for the non-conceptual mind. Okay, wow, fantastic. So as we said before, yeah, it's always a bit difficult from the start, but after slowly we get used with the terminology and the definitions, so it gets clearer, I guess.
Is this can this be an explanation for the example that we see the sun and moon as small, but in fact they are bigger than the earth. So it is a
Yes.
direct perception, but still mistaken.
Yes, exactly. That's mistaken, yeah. Because yeah, they would speak about maybe 5 types of error. I think it's Arya Sangha who would speak about 5 types of error, about the number, about the time, about the size. And this one is about the size, exactly, yeah. When we see someone from afar, it looks like a tiny being, but it's this being is just far away. So that's why it looks like or she looks like or he looks like a tiny being, but that's just the distance, yeah. So exactly, yeah, the size is mistaken, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly one instance of the mistaken consciousnesses, yeah. Very good, exactly, yeah. Okay, so it's a cognition which is mistaken with regard to its appearing object. Yeah, if we say the sun and the moon, they have the same size. For instance, we could say from the point of view of the distance. Yeah. Okay. So it follows that you know the definition of a direct perception. Yeah, I just gave it 5 minutes ago, but I'm telling so much blah blah that we can just drop it so easily.
Free from conceptuality and non-mistaken.
Yes, exactly. So just being or a cognition.
A cognition.
Yes, very good. A cognition. Yes, Ignora. Because for instance, the Vaibhashika, yeah, the Buddhist tenets, they would say that the sense power sees its object. So in the Sotrantika onward, we would say, no, sense power is matter. It cannot see any object, yeah? So that's why we add cognition, yeah, to discard the Vaibhashika view, yeah? Okay, very good, fantastic. Yes, sure. Okay. Posit, yeah, the subject of cognition, which is free from conceptualization and non-mistaken. Exactly, we add that, yeah, non-mistaken, yeah. Okay, it follows that the subject of cognition, which is free from conceptualization and non-mistaken, is the definition of direct perception. Yes, according to Yonzin Purbuchok. Yes, in Tibet House, we would say it's the definition of a valid direct perception. Yes, but for Yonzin Purbuchok in the FPMT, we would say it's the definition of direct perception. Yeah, but in Tibet House, yeah, in the terminology used by Venerable Gendandula, we would say that's the definition of a valid direct perception. Yeah. Okay, very good. Very good. Accept. Okay. So that's why here we had, if you remember well, that a quote given by Geshe Dreyfus in Recognizing Reality. Yeah, from Acharya Dignaga, yeah, the direct perception is free from conceptualization. And because we have some minds or cognitions which are free from conceptualization, still there is something wrong or something mistaken. Yeah, like when we see a mirage. Yeah. Okay, so that's why Acharya Dharmakirti would add abhrantam, yeah, and non-mistaken, yeah, pratyaksham kalpanapodham abhrantam, yeah, non-mistaken as well, yeah, in order to speak about a direct perception. Yeah. Okay, yeah, we would say that the eye consciousness apprehending a mirage is not a direct perception, is a quasi-direct perception, is a fallacious direct perception. Yeah. It's a mistaken mind, yeah? So it cannot be, technically speaking, a direct perception. Yeah, yeah. Is it okay for everyone? Yes, very good. Fantastic. So that quote seems to come from the Pramana Vinishchaya, yeah? Another text from Acharya Dharmakirti, another one. Yeah? The most famous one is the Pramana Vartika. Yeah? Okay, wow, tea break, to breathe fresh air.
Christophe, what about yogic direct perception in Yongzin Purbuchok's definition?
Yeah, he would
Yogic,
say that it's a cognition which is free from conceptualization and non-mistaken and produced in dependence on its uncommon empowering condition, which is a samadhi, which is the union of shamatha and vipassana in the continuum of an arya. That would be the definition of a yogic direct perceiver. Yeah? Yeah, in the Sotrantika and the non-prasangika, they would accept that yogic direct perception is only in the continuum of an arya. Yeah, the prasangika would say even non-arya beings, ordinary beings, can have yogic direct perceptions. Yeah? Wow, okay, very good. But yogic direct perception, we see that later, cannot be divided into three. Usually the direct perceptions can be divided into three: valid cognitions, inattentive cognitions, and subsequent cognitions. Yeah, but the yogic direct perceptions, they cannot be inattentive cognitions. Yeah, yeah. Acharya Dharmakirti would say, Lord, chamber tonyine nyeba tamche namba tamche nyeparje. Yeah. For the great minds, the great beings, their mind knows all the aspects. So the yogic direct perception cannot be inattentive. Yeah, but the other types of direct perceptions can be divided into three: valid cognition, subsequent cognition, and inattentive cognition. Yeah.
and what about the 5 type of errors like size, regarding the size, how the yogic direct perception sees the sun as compared to the earth, for example?
Yeah, so in this case, it could not be mistaken. It could not be mistaken. So like when we say that we see the sun and the moon, that they seem to have the same size, we cannot say it's a direct perception with regard to the size. Yeah, with regard to the color, maybe that's okay. The color of the sun, the color of the moon, that's okay. Yeah, with regard to the shape, that's okay as well. They are round. But with regard to the size, it's mistaken. A yogic direct perception cannot be mistaken at all, even with regard to the size. Yeah. But the yogic direct perception is a mental direct perception. So it's not, there would not be the question, the issue with the distance.
Okay.
Yeah. Very good.
Can,
Very good.
can you
Yes, please.
please repeat the 5 types of errors with regard to appearance?
Yeah, so usually they speak about 4 types of superficial error. Yeah, yul, that's the object. Yeah, Arya Asanga is very specific and I don't remember all the 5s. So that's why I speak about the 4. Yul is the object, like when in the night, in the dark, you have an incense which is lit and you make a round. You could even draw your name in the dark if you go very quick. So it seems to be round, but it's not a circle. It's just because it goes very quick. Yeah. Okay, so that's the object. Yul. 10, it's the faculty, the power itself. Yeah. Like when we have some kind of disease, we can see the white color as yellow, for instance. Yeah. Okay. Ne is the localization. Yeah. When you are in a train and the other train is starting, you could have the feeling that your train is moving. But it's not your train, it's the train of the other side. And Dematakien is the immediately preceding condition. Like some people would say, when we are angry, we see colors like reddish colors. Why not? Because there is some influx of blood in the eye power. So why not? I prefer another type of I don't know if I could say that, because it's in it's a French game, a word game in French, so I cannot it doesn't work if I tell that to you. But usually speaking, in my hometown there is a shop and it's written tapisserie, and because I like sugar and so on, I read that at patisserie. So it's written like, like carpentry, but I read that like a bakery. So because of my attachment, it induces some kind of error in my eye consciousness. Okay.
But you said,
Yeah,
size and number. Where does
yes,
that fall
exactly.
into one of these things?
Yeah, so those are different divisions. It could come from, it comes from Arya Sangha, and he speaks about the time. Like for instance, when we dream of daylight, so we dream, so it's nighttime, but we dream of daylight, yeah? So that's the mistake of time. He speaks about the size, the number, and I will give you some source, some reference from this book, yeah? They speak about the 5 types of errors, because I don't have the all 5 in my mind.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I will give that to you in the chat, yeah?
okay. And in the definition for direct perception, because we say free from conceptualization and non-mistaken, but
Yeah,
non-mistaken mistaken could be infinite. But is there a definition of what is non-mistaken, or something that will help people understand this is non-mistaken?
Yeah, so it means that a cognition which is non-mistaken cannot cannot be mistaken with regard to its appearing object. So that's what they mean, like an eye consciousness seeing the color of the cup. So it's not mistaken, yeah. For the Sotrantika, yeah. For the Sotrantika and the Sotrantika, Swatantrika, Madhyamika, they would accept that this eye consciousness is not mistaken at all, yeah, with regard to the cup, with regard to the color of the cup. Yeah. But sometimes, like for instance, you could have some filters, on the internet, yeah. Like some people, sometimes they use a filter to make a new type of picture. So in that case, yeah, that would be mistaken. Yeah? That would not be the real color of the cup. It could be brighter or, you know, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, very good. So non-mistaken, yeah, means a cognition which is not mistaken. It's not mistaken with regard to its appearing object. Yeah, very good. Okay, so now a kind of hardcore debate. Prepare. It follows that if it is a cognition, it's necessarily a direct perception. So it's a two-part consequence. So we can have two types of answers. Like we say, yes, I agree, so accept. Or we would say, no, that's totally fake. So we would say, why? I don't accept.
Why?
Well,
Okay, why?
yeah. It follows that if it is a cognition, it's necessarily a direct perception. We just saw before an eye consciousness apprehending a mirage is not, technically speaking, a direct perception. Yeah? It's a non-conceptual wrong cognition. Yeah. Okay, very good. So why exactly? Very good. It follows that if it is a cognition, it's not necessarily a direct perception.
Accept.
Accept. Yeah, very good. Yeah, you are perfectly consistent. Accept. Okay, it follows that among contradictory, equivalent 3P and 4P, you know the difference between the two, cognition and direct perception. Oh, 3P, Machavila. Jim Carrey says, of course, I know. 3P. 3P for Chavila. Who else?
Yeah, also 3P.
Yeah,
3P.
Sigrun, 3P, 6P.
3P.
3P, c'était en la 9P. Okay, so I think the club is very strong. Yeah, in 3P. So it follows you can posit a common base between the two, cognition and direct perception.
An eye consciousness seeing a pen.
Yeah. Yeah, an eye consciousness seeing a pen. I put an ear consciousness apprehending music. Yeah, but that's the same, very similar. An eye consciousness seeing a pen. It follows that the subject, an eye consciousness seeing a pen, is a cognition.
Accept.
Yes, it is a cognition because?
Because it is clear and knowing.
Yes, it follows that if it is clear and knowing, it's necessarily a cognition.
Accept.
Yes, and the subject, the eye consciousness apprehending a pen is a direct perception.
Accept.
It is a direct perception because?
Because it is non-conceptual and non-mistaken.
Okay, so it follows that the news I watched yesterday they were non-conceptual and they were unmistaken. So it follows that the news I watched yesterday.
Cognition which is
Yeah.
non-conceptual and non-mistaken.
Yes, very good. Very good. Because it's a cognition which is non-conceptual and non-mistaken. Yeah, we can keep non-conceptual for the moment. It's easier to say. But in mind, in Tibetan Buddhism, Lati Rinpoche would give us a short nuance about that. Yeah, very useful. Okay, yeah, for instance, we can say that, for instance, a person is not conceptual. Yeah, a person is impermanent, and it's an NECP, it's not conceptual. Is a person free from conceptualization? No. Says Ingrula. Yeah, because how many thoughts do we have every day? Yeah, how many thoughts? How many thoughts that we wish to have every day? And how many virtuous thoughts do we have that we wish to have every day? It's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Yeah, that's the way to practice to transform our mind. Yeah, to be aware of our thoughts and how we can transform them. Yeah. Wow. So how many thoughts we have every day? So a person is not free from from conceptualization, but it is not conceptual. So that's why Latin Rinpoche would give a short nuance about that. Yeah. Okay, but we can say non-conceptual. That's okay. Yeah? In the loose sense, it's okay. Very good. So it follows that if it is a cognition which is not conceptual and non-mistaken, it's necessarily a direct perception. Very good. So it follows you can posit cognition which is not a direct perception.
A mental cognition.
Yes, a mental cognition. Okay. So, for instance, a clairvoyance is a
No. Bob thinking about banana.
Yes, yes, a mind thinking about banana. We could say, like for what we said before, yeah, an eye consciousness apprehending mirage. But yes, a thought consciousness apprehending a banana, yeah, that works as well, yeah, because it's a thought consciousness, it follows it is a cognition. Yes, and it follows that the thought consciousness apprehending a banana is not a direct perception.
Accept.
Yes, it's not a direct perception because
Because it is conceptual.
yes, it follows that if it is conceptual, it's necessarily not a direct perception.
Accept.
Very good, perfect. I said, for instance, okay, yes, self-grasping ignorance. Yeah, self-grasping ignorance, yeah. That works as well, yeah, because it's a wrong thought consciousness, yeah. Yeah. Okay, very good. Very good. So, but yes, the thought consciousness apprehending a banana, yeah, it's not as dangerous as the self-grasping ignorance, but still, it is not a direct perception.
Sorry, is it a thought consciousness or mental factor?
Yeah, this ignorance, self-grasping ignorance, is a mental factor which is in the retinue of a thought consciousness. Yeah, it's not the thought consciousness itself. Yeah, that's true. It's not. It's a thought consciousness in the sense. It is a thought cognition. Yeah, but it's not a thought consciousness as a main mind. Yeah, because ignorance is a mental factor. Yeah, very good, Zigrona. Yeah, very good.
Where could we put mere self?
Ah, yes, the mere self. Ah, if we say the mere self, yeah, we could say, okay, that's a very hard question. For the Sotrantika, we could say, okay, the mere self, which is the illustration of the person. Because for the Sotrantika, they can say that usually speaking, a person is an NACP, is a non-associated compositional factor. But if it is a person, it can be a mind, the mental consciousness. Because if they look for what is exactly the person, they have to find something. Only the Prasangika will not find, ultimately. But the other schools, they have to find ultimately what is the person. Yeah. So if they want to find an illustration of the person, they would say the mental consciousness. So in that case, that would be a cognition. Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Otherwise, if we say, yes, please.
In the something that is a cognition but not direct perception is something that has inferential perception. Is that a cognition? So let's say smoke, you see smoke and you deduce fire.
Yes.
Mental cognition that sees smoke and infers fire, is that
Yes, we can say the mental consciousness which infers fire on the basis of the reasoning, yeah, of that kind of reasoning, yeah, the reasoning of effect, yeah, very good, yeah, the thought consciousness, yeah, or the mental consciousness which is inferring something, yeah, exactly. That's necessarily a thought consciousness.
So even though the direct perception is smoke, but because I didn't say smoke, and I said
Yeah.
fire, because if it was somebody direct perception of fire, then it would have been both, no? Like it would have
Yes.
been your consciousness apprehending music. It's like
Yeah, we can say that yes, because you have this inferential valid cognition, it necessarily follows after a valid direct perception. That's why they say Jesu Parva in Tibetan for Anumana Anumana Pramana. Yeah, this valid cognition, the inferential valid cognition. In Tibetan, they will say Jesu Parva. It follows what? The direct perception. Yeah,
okay.
so we have the direct perception of smoke, but fire is a hidden phenomenon for us. Usually speaking, it's a manifest phenomenon, usually speaking. But in our case, if we don't see the fire, it's hidden because in order to ascertain its presence, we need to use the valid effect reason, yeah? Valid reason of effect. Yeah. So in that case, because we need to infer the fire independence on seeing smoke, then fire is a hidden phenomenon for us. Yeah. And yeah, we need two minds, one that sees directly smoke, that has a valid cognition of smoke, because it could be something else. It could be, you know, haze. It could be something else. So we need to ascertain that it is smoke. And then we need a thought consciousness which ascertains the presence of fire. Yeah? So this thought consciousness which ascertains the presence of fire is a cognition, but is not a direct perception exactly. Yeah. Very good. Wow, fantastic. Fantastic. You are already experts in epistemology. That's amazing. Very good. Okay, so now if we check for direct perception, which is not cognition, would we find that? No, because we said 3P, yeah? We said 3P, so red cross. It follows the subject, red cross is a direct perception. No, I'm joking. Okay. Okay, what can we find that which is neither cognition and direct perception?
Music.
Music. Yeah.
Table.
Yeah, c'est un moment-là.
Table.
Table, exactly. Yeah, you saw my slides or you know my habits. Table with music, yeah. Music, table, it works. Very good. So 3P between cognition and direct perception. Very good. Okay, so because here we have cognition, yeah. Cognition is the broadest category among minds. But if we wish to compare a main mind and the direct perception, so the first common base, it's okay, yeah, that works. That still works, yeah. It's an ear consciousness, so it's a main mind, and it's a direct perception, yeah, Palavila?
Sorry, just I got stuck on the previous one. Table,
Yeah.
like they're all an object of knowledge. So I don't understand how it's neither, you know, like it's not available to direct perception, it's not available to a cognition. I mean, they're
So yeah, if we compared available to cognition or available to direct perception, yeah, that would be wrong to put the table here. But if we compare cognition and direct perception, they are necessarily mental events. Yeah, they are clear and knowing. And what is not them could be form or NACP or permanent phenomena or non-existent. Yeah. Because table is form, it follows that form is necessarily not clear and knowing.
okay, because we've gone to the object, but if we are on the subject side, then I would have thought if I say table, then I have a cognition of table. But because we are saying no,
Yes,
this is just, we've just put an example of the object. There's
which
no
is not a
cognition.
subject, exactly. Which is an object, which is not a subject. Yeah, because generally speaking, subject and object are not contradictory, yeah? Because a mind is an object possessor, but because it exists, it is an object as well, yeah?
Yes.
Very good. But if we choose an object which is not mind, which is not an object possessor, then we can put table, we can put permanent phenomena and so on. Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. But you're right. Yeah. Object is equivalent with phenomenon and hidden phenomenon as well. Yeah. According to Yongzin Purbuchok. Yeah. That's a phenomenon which is realized in a hidden manner by the thought consciousness apprehending it. Yeah. So that's why we can think about anything. Yeah. So any object can be thought about. Yeah. So it's a hidden phenomenon. But in this case, it cannot be a mind itself because it's matter.
Okay.
Very good. Wow, fantastic. Fantastic. So we have 3P, yeah, between cognition and direct perception. But now, if we are a bit more specific and we compare main mind and direct perception, so yes, the ear consciousness apprehending music or the eye consciousness seeing a pen, that still works. Yeah, it's a main mind and it's a direct perception. Okay, so now if we check what is a main mind but not a direct perception, can we still put self-grasping ignorance? If you remember what said Zigrunla before.
We cannot,
Yeah, we cannot, Shavila, because?
because it is a mental factor.
Exactly, because it is a mental factor. Perfect. Yes. If we put self-grasping, it could work, as His Holiness says in Samsara, Nirvana, and Buddha nature. He says that self-grasping is more inclusive than self-grasping ignorance. Self-grasping can include all the mental events which are in the retinue of this self-grasping ignorance. Yeah, we can speak about the mental factor of feeling, identification, even the main mind is a self-grasping. Yeah, but they are not the self-grasping ignorance, because the self-grasping ignorance is a very specific mental factor. Yeah. Okay, so here we could say a mind, a self-grasping mental consciousness. A self-grasping mental consciousness is necessarily a main mind. Yeah. If we say mental consciousness, not mental cognition. Because mental cognition could be a mental factor in the retinue of the mental consciousness.
Is self-grasping mental consciousness equivalent to mere self or person? No.
So in this case, because usually speaking, when we speak about the self-grasping, it means we hold on to a fake type of self. Yeah, it would not be just a mere self. Yeah, because yeah, like in Tibetan, when we say dakzin means, usually speaking, that ego grasping, yeah? But dak or me or self is just a conventional self, usually speaking, yeah? Yeah, like in Sanskrit, it's even easier to distinguish. They would say ahamkara for dak, and they would say atmagraha for dakzin, yeah? So they would say it's a kind of atmagraha, yeah, to grasping at an atman. Yeah, but ahamkara is just like the how do you say, the self-identification, yeah, how we identify ourselves. Yeah, just like the individualization, we could say. Okay, okay. So yes, when we say the mere self, as we said before, if we just say the mere self in general, it is an NACP. But if we say the illustration of a mere self, then for the Soul Trantika, it could be a main mind, because it has to be the mental consciousness. Yeah, very good. Yeah, if we recap what we said before about imputed existent and substantial existent, the Soul Trantika would say, generally speaking, a person is an imputed existent because it's an NACP. But if it is a person, it can be a substantial existent because it can be mind. Wow, wonderful. Headache. Yes,
So
Pranava.
sorry, so in that statement, the mental consciousness is a substantial existent and self-grasping mental consciousness becomes the imputed.
We would say that the any consciousness, if we speak about a main mind, has to be a substantial existent. But the person, if we speak about the person in general, because it's an NACP, it's an imputed existent. An imputed existent in the sense that it is not substantially apprehensible. Yeah, because otherwise imputed existence, usually speaking, means permanent. Yeah, substantial existent, impermanent, imputed existent, permanent. But here we speak about substantial existent in the meaning of self-sufficiently apprehensible substantial, and imputed existent in the sense of not self-sufficiently apprehensible. Yeah, the person is an NACP because in order to see the person, you need to see something else than the person, like the mind, if you are clairvoyant, or the face, and so on. Yeah. Yeah. But in order to see the mind, you just see the mind directly, or in order to see the face, you just see the face directly. You don't need to go through another means. Yeah. So that's why the face or the aggregates, generally speaking, are self-sufficiently apprehensible substantial existent, and the person is imputed existent in the sense that it is not self-sufficiently apprehensible. Yeah. Wow, fantastic. Wow. Very
I also
deep.
have a question.
Yes, please.
And the direct perception, can it be self-grasping?
Direct perception, it cannot be self-grasping.
No? But it
Because, yeah, can you find an illustration of a self-grasping direct perception?
An eye consciousness seeing an apple. It would
Okay.
grasp the apple as a self phenomena.
It will grasp the apple as a self phenomena. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So because in this case, this eye consciousness would be a kind of thought consciousness at the same time, because to grasp at the self, only a mental consciousness is able to do so. Yeah, is able to ascertain the mode of abiding of a phenomenon. No, we could say that it's
That's
two.
the question.
The self-grasping, the self in the sense of self-sufficiently and so on, self-sufficient, substantial existent, or even inherent existent for the for the prasangika. It's too subtle for the sense consciousnesses. They are not made for that. Yeah. Only the thought consciousness is so clever that it can grasp reality in the way in the wrong way. Yeah, but the eye consciousness and so on, they can have the appearance of a non-existent. Like for the prasangika, they would say that any mind of a non-arya, of an ordinary being, any mind is necessarily mistaken, because there is the appearance of a inherent existence, but it doesn't mean that the eye consciousness is grasping at that. Even the thought consciousness is not necessarily grasping at that. Yeah? Lama Tsongkhapa says there are three modes of apprehension for the thought consciousness. Yeah? We can actively grasp at an inherent self. We can actively refute inherent self. Like we can have just the mere thought of the mere phenomenon itself. Yeah, that's why the thought consciousness is not necessarily grasping at inherent existence, yeah, for the prasangika. And for the sense consciousness is they cannot grasp at all for the self of phenomena. Yeah? The self of phenomena, yeah, there is the clear appearance of the inherent existence in the sense consciousnesses as well as in the mental consciousness, but only the mental consciousness is able to believe in that.
And if an ordinary being thinks of an apple, then which of the three ones is it?
Sorry?
If a mental consciousness thinks about an apple, You said there are three types, right? Which
Yeah.
of the three types would it be for an ordinary being? Is
It
it
depends.
automatically grasping?
Not
Or it's not
automatically.
automatically refuting? Or what
Yeah.
was the third one? I
It
forgot.
can be just the mere phenomenon itself. Yeah, like
So like normal modus of an ordinary being?
yes, exactly. Like when we think about a cup, pot, and so on, we don't
Mm.
necessarily grasp at it as inherently existing. But if we are, if we have the wrong mental application, yeah, the wrong attention, then we can, oh, there is nice cup in the shop and so on, very beautiful. It could go well in my kitchen and so on. Then we can grasp at the inherent existence of the cup. Then, after grasp at the inherent existence of the pleasure it could give, and so on, right? But Lama Tsongkhapa says, yeah, we are not grasping necessarily at inherent existence, contrary to Hashan Mahayana, yeah, in Tibet, when Samye, the first monastery, was built over there. Yeah, there was some Chinese monks, and one of them claimed he had the view of the Chan, yeah, the father of the Zen in China. But it seems that it was not really the real Chan view, because he said that any thought was wrong. Any thought grasped at inherent existence. He said you can have a white cloud or dark cloud. Anyway, they hide the sunlight. Yeah, so he said if you have a virtuous thought or non-virtuous thought, anyway, you have to discard them because they are all wrong. They grasp at inherent existence. And Acharya Kamalashila debated with with him, and he defeated him. Yeah, it seems so. Yeah, and Lama Tsongkhapa is explaining that. Yeah, like Hashan Mahayana was wrong to say that any thought consciousness needs to grasp at inherent existence. It would mean that any thought consciousness is necessarily wrong, but it's not the case. It's necessarily mistaken, but not necessarily wrong.
How can we
Yeah.
know if it's a grasping mental consciousness?
Yeah, we have to check in our mind. Yeah. So of course, the way it appears always the same because we have the obstructive obstruction. Yeah, how do you say, cognitive obstruction. Yeah. We are not Buddhas. I am not Buddhas. I don't know for you, but I am not a Buddha. So I have the obstruction, the cognitive obstruction. And one of the effects of this obstruction is to show the appearance of inherent existence. But it doesn't mean that we have a manifest grasping at that. We don't necessarily believe in that, not at any case. Yeah, so we have to check in our mind how it works. Yeah, if you think just about something, or if you think about something and your mind stays on that, then there is a chance that your thought consciousness could grasp at the inherent existence of that. Then after, any kind of affliction could arise.
So,
Yeah.
this is a very interesting question because I have so much lucid dreams, and when I wake up, I cannot hold on to it. There is no way, even if I wanted to grasp, oh, this was a good dream. I wake up feeling it was a good dream. I can't hold on to it. It's just impossible. So there is no grasping in a dream. Then I feel like you cannot grasp in the dream because the dream you're seeing everything, and I cannot grasp at anything. It's so in our waking world, if my mind, I cannot hold on to my dream, but it seems in the waking world, I hold on to everything. As soon as you wake up, glass of water is definitely there, cup of coffee, more grasping. So I don't know how you can not grasp in a waking world, but I can clearly see that I cannot grasp in a dream world.
Yes, even in the dream world, like in the Prasangika view, they would say like in order for a mundane, how do you say, a mundane being or a mundane mind to understand something as an illusion, we don't need to understand emptiness. Yes, when we see a mirage and so on, in order to discover that it's an illusion, we don't need to understand emptiness. Yeah. But because it is fake, according to the world, would say the Prasangika, according to the perspective of the world, it is fake. Yeah. But for the Prasangika, even what is true according to the world is fake according to the Prasangika. And in order to understand that, we need to understand emptiness. So even if we have a dream, a lucid dream, and we understand that the dream is just a dream, it doesn't mean that we realize the emptiness of that dream. We realize the emptiness of true, how do you say, of reality in one sense. Yeah, we know, oh, it is not real. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that we understood the emptiness of inherent existence of the, how do you say, the forms seen in the dream and so on. Yeah, yeah. Like for instance, no, when when we are babies or we are children, and we see our face in the mirror, we understand that it's a mistaken reflection, yeah. But we don't understand emptiness at that time, yeah. We understand that it is an illusion, but we don't understand that it is like an illusion, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, but in a
But still,
waking
it's
world,
very
you cannot
useful
not
anyway.
grasp.
Yeah, I don't want to discard what you said, because it's very useful anyway. Yeah, to have that kind of practice, because it loosens the grasp that we could have in the ordinary life. Yeah, in one sense. Yeah, because it helps. You know, this example of the illusion, reflection, rainbow, and so on. They are useful in order to understand the deepest meaning of emptiness. Yeah, so they are not. Unuseful. They are useful for that. Yes. Okay. So yeah, grasping and not grasping. Yeah, it means that thought consciousness is not necessarily actively grasping at inherent existence, but still there is always the appearance of inherent existence. But we don't necessarily believe in that. Yeah. So, but still, you have to double check by yourself. Yeah, and not. I'm just a parrot, yo. So just a parrot. I cannot explain so much more. But still, you have to double check by yourself. Yeah? Okay, very good. But very interesting questions. And now we see also, because of the Sotrantika, yeah, thanks to the Sotrantika, we can dive into the Prasangika later. Yeah, we can have a good grasp on that. But grasp doesn't mean that we inherently grasp. Okay. Okay, very good. So can we have a direct perception which is not a mind? No, says Rigunla.
The mental factor, feeling, and eye consciousness, apprehending an apple.
Wow, fantastic. Wow, identification in the retinue of a near consciousness, apprehending music, for instance, yeah? Or the mental factor of feeling, yeah, in the retinue of a near consciousness, apprehending music, exactly. It's a direct perception because it's a cognition. And it's a cognition which is free from conceptualization, which is not mistaken. So it is also a direct perception, but it is not a main mind. Shocking.
But
Shocking.
is feeling non-conceptual?
Yeah, the feeling which is in the retinue of a near consciousness cannot be conceptual. Yeah, the feeling that is in the retinue of a thought consciousness is conceptual.
What does that mean,
Yeah.
feeling the retinue of an ear consciousness?
It means like one of the 5 omnipresent mental factors which are associated with that ear consciousness. Yeah. In the retinue of means that they are associated with, they are one substance with the ear consciousness. So because the ear consciousness cannot do anything without the 5 mental factor, the 5 omnipresent mental factors. Yeah? It is able to experience objects because of the mental factor of feeling. Yeah, if the
Oh,
mental factor of feeling were not there.
sorry.
Yes, please.
I was asking, but feeling will only occur once there is the ascertainment of the object, and then when we feel pleasant or unpleasant. So wouldn't that become a conceptualization?
So it would mean that non-conceptual minds cannot have feeling. So it follows that the mental factor of feeling is not omnipresent, is only omnipresent in the mental consciousness.
Oh, means that the feeling also pervades sense consciousnesses?
Yes, very good.
Oh.
Yes, because they are omnipresent, so they have to be there in any main mind.
So can I say, for example, like the vibration in the ear that is experienced by the ear, actually, and doesn't make any sense, like words are coming, but I cannot understand. The mind is not able to put any concept to it. But I know the experience in the ear is the vibration. Is that what we're
Yes,
talking about? Just the vibration? Because no mind
exactly.
has come in contact to make sense of that vibration.
Yes, so yeah, we can have there are lots of debates about that. Yeah, is the direct perception able to determine its object or not? Yeah, so for Acharya Dharmakirti, in the very first way to express those things, and the Sakyapa tradition, they would say no, the sense consciousness are just how do you say, dumb. They would say Wang Sheku Pamichandra. They would say like this. Yeah. They would say the sense consciousness is like a dumb person which has eyes, and the thought consciousness is like a blind with who knows how to speak. Torpa longwa makeja. So they say like this. Yeah. So the Sakya Pandita would say like this. Yeah, Wang Shekupa Michenda Tomba Longwa Makeja. Yeah, so he says like this. Yeah, so the direct perception is dumb. Yeah, but is able to see things but don't understand things. Yeah, only the thought consciousness, which doesn't see things, is able to understand them. Yeah, but in the new epistemology, like in the Gelugpa tradition, usually speaking, we say that direct perception can be valid, can ascertain its object, can determine its object. Yeah, the ascertainment is not necessarily conceptual. And it's not only in the Gelugpa tradition, also for Acharya Dharmottara in the Indian tradition also. Yeah, he would say that also to determine its object doesn't mean it is conceptual. Yeah,
So
so there
what
are
are they
many
using?
debates about that. So
So
the feeling, the mental feeling, mental factor of feeling is there for any mind. Otherwise, no mind would be able to experience its object. Yeah, so the mental factor of feeling allows the main minds to experience their object. Yeah, so we can have a pleasant ear consciousness, a pleasant feeling associated with the ear consciousness, but the ear consciousness will not ascertain the pleasant feeling as being pleasant. The mental consciousness is able to do so.
So the ear
So,
has the feeling of pleasant
yes,
sound,
exactly.
but cannot qualify it.
Exactly, cannot ascertain it as being pleasant. Only the mental consciousness is able to do so. But still, the ear consciousness, eye consciousness, taste consciousness, and so on, even when we don't think, we have pleasant feelings. Yeah? But we understand that they are pleasant because the mind, the mental consciousness is there to qualify them. Oh, it is pleasant. Oh, it is unpleasant. Oh, it is neutral. Yeah. But because they are omnipresent, they have to be there.
So then,
When you as long as you have a main mind, you necessarily have at least the 5 omnipresent mental factors. Yeah.
but then it means that if I have an anesthesia, they've given me an injection to anesthetize. So my mind doesn't experience the pain, but is my skin experiencing the pain?
No, no, because your skin, is your skin cannot experience any pain because it is matter. Yeah, when we
Exactly.
speak about mental factor, it's necessarily a cognition. Yeah, so only your tactile consciousness can feel some, scratch or some how do
So
you say?
no, now they cut here to make a stitch or something, let's say.
Yes, okay. So you have
And
anesthesia.
yeah, I have anesthesia, but so the mind cannot experience good or bad. Like I cannot, the
Exactly.
messages are not reaching my mind.
Exactly. Yeah,
But they're going
because
to cut you. Who is feeling the cut?
so do you feel the cut in that case if there is anesthesia? No.
No.
No, you don't feel it because the empowering condition doesn't work. Yeah, like if you close your eyes, you cannot see the color of my cup. Yeah. So the cup is here, your eye consciousness is here, but they cannot be introduced to each other because there is the lack of the eye sense power. Yeah. So in
Yeah,
that
but
case, if you have anesthesia, your empowering condition, your dominant condition is not working, so it cannot make it can make sure that your mind, so your tactile consciousness and the object enter into contact.
no. So actually, anesthesia was an interesting example because I can feel the pressure. I know that
Okay,
somebody is cutting my skin. And but
okay, so that's okay.
so there's the feeling in the retinue of the skin, touch
Yeah, it can be
exists.
yes, exactly. Yeah, the
But there is
feeling
no
is
qualification of pain or good or bad.
yeah,
There
so
is,
it's a neutral feeling.
it is a neutral feeling.
It has to be neutral because there has to be any feeling anywhere.
There,
As long as you have the main mind, there is necessarily a feeling. So if it is not good or bad, it's just neutral.
no, but then the feeling in the retinue of the touch,
Yes, yes.
apprehending the touch.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it feeling,
Yes.
is it feeling anything? Is it feeling neutral or is
Yes.
it feeling
Yes,
pain?
it is feeling it can feel an absence of unpleasant thing. Yeah, like for instance, you I can feel the cushion in my back. Yeah, it's not very pleasant, it's not very unpleasant, it's just neutral feeling. Yeah, it's it's the ability for my tactile consciousness to experiment things. So if the mental feeling were not there, then the mind cannot exist, the main mind cannot apprehend anything. Yeah, we could say in one sense you have a government with 5 ministers. Yeah, and if one minister doesn't work, then the government shuts down. Okay, so yeah, the mental factor feeling is omnipresent. So it is here anyway, yeah, in any mind, any main mind. So that feeling is a cognition because it's clear and knowing, and it is in the retinue of a near consciousness apprehending music. So it is a direct perception, but it is not a main mind. Yeah, does it work? Wow, fantastic. Okay. So now what could be something which is not there to finish with that?
Table.
Yeah. Yeah, table, exactly, Chavila, table. What could we say as well? I tried to put something else, no? Ah, yes, yes, yes. I put something here. I need to be able to read that. So it is what did I put? Self-grasping ignorance. Yeah, and self-grasping ignorance is necessarily a mental factor which is in the retinue of a thought consciousness. So it is necessarily mistaken. It is wrong. So it cannot be a direct perception, and it cannot be a main mind because it is a mental factor. Yeah, so we have 4 possibilities. Wow, fantastic. So I will send you the slide as usually. Okay. Fantastic, you did very well. And your questions also very, very, very clever, very deep. Thank you so much. Wow.
Can we conclude in the last slide that if we
Yes.
remove self-grasping ignorance, then the remaining would be Buddhahood, the main mind
Ah,
and
yes.
the main mind
Yes, we
and the
could.
direct perception.
So it follows that an arhat is a Buddha.
Oh, no, no, no. Arhat. Yeah.
But an arhat doesn't have any
And direct
self-reference.
perception.
Sorry?
An
Small.
arhat has a main mind and direct perception, in which the and not the self-grasping ignorance. Yeah.
Exactly, yes, exactly. Yeah, we could say also Bodhisattva on the pure Bhumis, yeah? Yeah.
But then
So it
how does the if self-grasping ignorance is outside the both circles, then the feeling of pain uh still remains in the direct perception, right? The feeling in the retinue. So
yes,
you can feel the pain. No.
yes. Yes, like Lama Tsongkhapa says that in the great Lam Rim, when he speaks about karma, he says that, the pleasant feeling that arises in the hells, in the hot hells, from a cool breeze, yeah, or a headache or a pain in the continuum of an arhat, they are necessarily the karmic results, yeah, of some previously accumulated karma in the past, yeah. So it seems that an arhat can feel pain, but his suffering is not a true suffering, because he has no true suffering at all anymore, yeah, because he discarded the first two sets of the Four Noble Truths, yeah.
Okay.
So he has a suffering feeling, but he has no true suffering. Very complicated, no?
Yeah.
So we could say that yes and no. If we speak about someone who has no self-grasping ignorance at all, so he discarded the seeds as well, so that person doesn't have any true suffering anymore, we could say so. Yeah, why not? Okay. Yeah, so some people would debate that. They would say, okay, the arhat who is still living, his contaminated body, he's still a true suffering. Yeah. So some people would say so. His mind is not, but his body is. Very complicated. Okay, we have to stop there, otherwise, yeah, double headache. Yeah? Okay. Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure as usual. And if you wish to join us on Monday for the debate class, it's not a debate class, it's just debate training. And we have fun as well. So then you can join. And for the sake of all the beings, today is wonderful. Yeah, we offer the best present to His Holiness the Dalai Lama and to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, because trying to know our mind, try to make it better for the sake of all the beings, that's the best offering. Yeah, thank you so much. See you next time. Have a nice
Thank you.
week. Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christopher. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.